Okay, so this is Conversations with Dancers number 3. And it's really exciting to do. And we have Faisal Zedan with us, which I'm really excited. Zedan.
As a dancer or as a drummer?
And so Faisal is not really a dancer, but to me, dance really is just creativity and expression form. And Faisal, you dance with your fingers, you dance with sound, you dance with melody. And I have gotten you up a few times, and others have where
Yeah, well,
that where you come from. So I just wanted to talk to you about all the wonderful things that we talk about. That's just I find so important and fun to discuss. And I was thinking about like what we talk about often when we're together. We always end up talking about spirit, universe, and more so sacred geometry and the patterns and how that relates to music and how that relates to earth, humans, music, God, life, the greater universe. And and so yeah, and then the couple other things I wrote down, which I've never written things down, but I had time, and I was thinking another thing that when I really think about you, I think about the grace of tone,
mm,
of sounds and the quality. That it's not just about the rhythm being on time; it's about the sound that you create, and that is what you say, what you're saying. Also patterns, like I said, the sacred geometry, and also the drumming patterns and stuff like that. And and then I just want to make sure that we talk about how to people can get in touch with you, of course, and how to find your Patreon.
appreciate that, of course. Oh, thank you.
And so yeah, so like, how's it been? I've noticed that you've been like drumming online, and have you? And I think you did a show with Lars and In Charge, right?
Yes, we did. That was
Nice,
last month sometimes.
nice. And
It's been, yes,
do
I'm sorry,
you practice every day?
as much as I can. Since it's a drum, I play the drums, and my housemates are musicians also, and they're staying home the whole time just like me. So we've given each other the chance to do it. They can play louder because they play accordions and things like that.
Okay.
For me, I've been practicing less. If I want to say it this way, just I've been practicing less. But again, keeping up with, contemplating the music always, thinking of the movements, thinking of what is it that we can do next with the music. We have a lot of materials, a lot of vocabulary, and we just need to sort out through it. And it seems like this is a crazy time to be like confined at home, and you have no other excuse but to keep, just keep going through the music.
Nice.
And hopefully coming up with a new form that if we're actually going to change this lifestyle, we'll have something to take with us in the music of all kinds. I do my part, the Brazilian do their part, the Indians are doing their part, the Persians, everybody, the Americans, everybody's trying to do their part to keep this music alive and play it as precise and as spirited as possible.
It's true. I'm really noticing that. It's really a beautiful thing, all the music that is coming up. And, you know, I mean, as much as everyone wants to be together, it's so cool that people are inviting us into their living rooms. And
It's really something, huh? Such a unique human experience. I
yeah,
mean, people got plagues before, but they've never been, and they got locked indoors, but they never had the means to communicate this way. Now we talk, I just had a conversation with someone in Australia and other places. It's really crazy and fantastic.
it is. I agree. So I ended up doing um, a Bendir lesson with an Algerian man in
Mm,
France, Salim Beltane.
I heard this name. Okay, excellent. Yes.
He's an amazing teacher, and it was so fun. And I got so much out of it. I've been looking for a Bendir teacher, and so we were, he asked me to play what I knew, so
Mm,
I did. So he started from there, and then he gave me pointers about the tone and the doom. And I
perfect.
thought the doom, I'm used to the darbuka and the davul, where the doom is in the
Hmm.
middle. And with
Almost, yeah. Hmm.
okay, well, you can explain further, but that's
Sure, sure.
play for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Thinking in my head. And then the tech is the other way, but with the bendir, it's the opposite. And finding, well, first of all, the skin has to be right because it's not synthetic. But
Hmm.
it was really amazing to have a teacher that I trusted that could give me the
Hmm.
information, and I have enough experience um, to know the difference and know what kind of work I need to do to really get that tone so that it creates the flow, the pattern, the pulse of the actual Moroccan music that we're playing.
Exactly. You're talking about the bandir in particular, the Moroccan bandir, because yeah, sure, it does have its own way of handling it, the positioning of the hand and all that. That's very important.
Yeah. And also just like the groove of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean,
Yes. So
it's
you also listen.
really. I mean, not just a Moroccan bandir, since it's a frame drum. This one has the strings, so
Oh,
I can make it sound like a bandir, but also it can be hollow. There's Arabic, Turkish, these kind of beats, and the way to handle, how the hand also positioned. So all these things I like
about
to teach
how many
people.
sounds do you think you can get on that drum?
How many sounds?
How many different ones?
1, 2, 3, 4. Like 4 sounds, and this can be like dum, big dum, small dum, this slap, and then there's this really sharp slap here. I don't want to play it right now; it's too sharp. But you can slap on it hard. So about six, 7 sounds maybe.
Nice.
And to manipulate the tone, and also the region where it comes from. Like all of them, they look alike, but wherever you take it in the Gulf region, they have an approach to it. In Syria, Egypt, Lebanon, Palestine, one approach. North Africa, another approach. You see, but it's all just frame drum, and you can do with that.
So I have a question because you're talking about the approach and like,
Sure.
I mean, I like that. And of course it makes sense because I am always saying and feeling like, music, dance, art, sound is coming from where it's coming from, which is the environment, the food, the water, the what's available, right? All this stuff. And then just something else. I don't know. What do you think about the different approaches of how you hear some of
Okay.
this music?
Okay, I mean, these are the same topics we've been always talking about, but let me start from there. To go back originally to the origin of the music itself and the pulse, like the original pulse of the universe, and started happening, and then sound and vibration came out, and then music came out, because all of this music is one note only,
Hmm.
right? And out of it, throughout the thousands of years, people were able to capture these things, and those are the approaches. Brazilian approach, Arabic approach, Turkish approach, Persian approach, American, North African, Indian, everybody, it's the same pulse, but when you look at them in different cultures, each one approached it in a different way, and they made their groove on it. Once you start doing that, it builds up a tradition. Something like you memorize becomes a tradition. Give it a few hundred years or thousands, it becomes this tradition. And there are many examples on this evolution where, because of the, again, like what you said, the environment, the state of the society at that time, the state of everything, inspired people to make music in a certain way.
Right.
It kept evolving until our time. Now we are in an evolutionary state in the music and in life and everything. But in music, it's the evolution of the different styles that everybody did before to put it together and see what else can come out of it. And so far, there are results to that.
Hmm.
So again, when you go back to the approach, well, that's when you start, like when you go, for example, for Morocco, and you see how the Moroccans deal with the instruments, how they make the groove sound, right? It's still a 6/8, but could be different in a feel a little bit, maybe from the Senegal or something from Central Africa, where they play 6/8, or like Eastern Africa, right?
Hmm.
It can be common between the Moroccans and the Gulf people, the Arab Gulf people from the peninsula. It might not be common, or it's not common with the people in Egypt and Syria, for example. We have a different 6/8. You see my point? So that's an approach in itself.
I'd love to hear more about it if you have more to say about it. I just find it so
Oh, cool.
fascinating.
Sure. Well, we've been talking also with all these metaphors about things, about the musical traditions that we have already, regardless of their name, but it's a coherent tradition. And it's exactly like a fruit tree or anything like a productive plant that, like an orange tree, right? You have the orange is always tasting nice. I'm taking my time to explain it. And you can cross let's say the orange with another thing to have a third tree. Like there's a banana tree and orange tree. You mix them together, they come up with this banana orange kind of thing. And this new thing is really tasty and nice. But the two other trees, they're still valid. Their taste is still awesome and really beautiful. You can always taste an orange by itself or a banana by itself or something, and you can always taste this new crossed over fruit. Same thing, an older Arabic singing style is still so beautiful and elaborate. You don't have to desert it because you crossed over with Latin jazz or something, and now you have this new genre. This is a new product, a new fruit. It's beautiful too. to even work on, genetically modify it more. But don't forget about the other fruits and trees. Like now you're adding to your fruits. You're not just like finishing with one and moving it away. No, you still can do ragas and masama'i and muwashah and fasil, classical Beethoven and Bach and things like that. They're still amazing fruits of music. So it's just the music is the same thing, one thing, and all these fruits came out of it, and they're really worth keeping up with. They still taste very good,
Mm-hmm.
and they're best, you know.
Mm-hmm. When you were saying that, it reminded me that I've been thinking about how the frame drum and the voice
Mm-hmm.
really seem to be, for the most part, in most cultures that I can think of,
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be kind of the most basic um, kind of beginning expressions, because you were talking about
Sure.
this fruit tree and that fruit tree, and I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then I'm thinking even before that, how incredible that for the most part humans have decided to rise up in voice, and then the
Mm-hmm.
ways that they've chosen harmony, rhythmic, um, parts, chants,
Right.
um, all of that, and then obviously with the rhythms and
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's interesting. It almost seems like it's almost one of the most primal uh, ways to begin to play music and sing with each other is frame drum.
It's really indeed yes, yeah, absolutely.
You notice that too?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really like, like I would say, really the first drum instrument came out, other than knockers. Like when you knock on things, that's one thing. But then to start understanding that if you lay a skin on a frame, it will give you a tone.
Mm.
That's some understanding. I don't know how humans came across to that, but it has to be something from the old villages or old places where they were. Maybe they had a pot or something covered. If they by mistake even hit on it, it made this resonance. So they start by understanding that. And the frame drum is really more the kind of the easiest to make. You know, the rest is demanding. There's a lot of things to it. The Becky, it has a shape also, but the frame, just the frame, could be narrow, it could be large, and you can play on it. It's easy to play it and sing. You can see that in most of the Eastern traditions, Arabic, Turkish, lots of traditions, just a drum, not even other melody instruments.
Mm-hmm.
That's besides also having just its voice without any drums or any melody in the old villages where I come from and other places.
Mm-hmm.
So the frame drum, it comes in handy. Yeah, the most drum they used when I was a kid, it was the frame drum. They didn't play the rebecca. We don't have just this one with the women, especially with the women. Men don't play frame drum, just women. That's their beat in the weddings. Just this.
Nice. What was
Yeah,
that song?
no sophistication. I'm sorry.
What was that song?
It's like when the procession for the wedding, when they go to the bride's house and the people, everybody with the groom and everybody, they take her, they do some singing back and forth, and then when they're leaving, when they walk, they start saying, "Pardon us, oh the family of so and so, we are taking your daughter, and may whoever else gonna get married in your family, may they get married, but we are marrying your daughter and we're taking her away from you."
Okay, there's many songs like that. So
Oh, everywhere.
I mean, from all over the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So I heard you say
Mhm.
this, and so I want you to expand. You said no sophistication, and I actually don't think you meant that in a bad way.
Oh, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
The
no.
connotation of that, and um, I just want to say that I want you to speak more on it. But what I want to say about it is that I feel like there is so much sophistication. There's so
Mhm.
much
Yeah.
in sophistication in connecting with others, having the confidence and the understanding that it's your place to create the atmosphere, with rhythm, song, dance. I feel like that is actually such a sophisticated way of being a human
Mhm.
that we
Exactly.
don't get very much. I mean, our community, we get together and do parties and we perform and we do our best to bring in traditions in ways that we want and can, like in our weddings or at parties.
Mhm.
Um, but we all know that there's a difference between respecting it and trying to recreate it and enjoying it and being
Absolutely.
immersed and raised in a
Sure,
certain
sure.
being.
I appreciate you say that. Thank you.
right?
I guess I should have. I could have said there's simplicity than sophistication. I can see there's sophistication around it.
I knew
The,
what you meant. I
I'm
knew
sorry.
I knew
Oh,
what.
cool. Yeah, because it has to be music accessible to everybody, especially the singing. When it's primal singing this way, it allows everybody in this village to sing. Especially when there are smaller villages, you don't. When you invite people to come to the wedding, there's no band to come and sit and people listen to it or dance to its music. No, people themselves dancing and singing and doing the music together.
Right.
My point. So the simplicity of those songs and those melodies, just to make everybody, as many people as possible to sing. But also it developed a tradition around it. We have the line dances, the local line dances. They are sophisticated in a way where everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows how to join in and when to leave and when to stop, when to continue. How long can you go with it between the debki, the circle line dance, the individual, like one single person dances, things that common with other Arab styles, things are native to the area where I come from. All these things, they became a tradition around it. So yeah, the sophistication comes there, but the melodies themselves, they have more simplicity. And somehow, I mean, some melodies are in 5/8 and 7/8. A lot of them Malfouf and Maqsoom and Ayub, but we have those few variations. And some of them, because of there are no drums, you can't tell like what was the beat until you start trying to figure out what's the beat on it. It's very funny. Yeah. I can give you examples of something we played as Malfouf the whole time, but it's turned to be in a 5/8, not Malfouf.
I'd love to hear it. If you do it again and sing, you got to play the drums softly and maybe
Okay.
a little loud.
Oh, yeah. So the line I'm going to play with 5, and then I'll play it with Malfouf. So this is the line. يا ابو التمر العراقي غلطت وخمنتك شوقي لما نضحك والبسامة تهز العرش من فوقي. That's on 5. يا ابو السلكي العراقي غلطت وخمنتك شوقي لما نضحك وتبسم تهز العرش من فوقي. It comes back again because the Malfouf is 2/4 and 5 or 10 is a 10 and it's 5 twos. 5 twos. So it becomes easy just to go, yeah. And in the village, like many times we play those things and I will just play Malfouf throughout the song without even noticing. When I came here, and my first girlfriend, Kathleen Hood, she went to do ethnomusicology research on the Druze music in Syria. And she came back with those recordings from older people that I didn't know before. And she asked me questions about the beats and stuff. And the guy said, yeah, like we have 5, we have 7, I think we have a 9, we have a 12. But everything else, like still simpler, Maqsoom and Ayub and Malfouf.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
A couple of things in 3/8, but mostly that way. So again, not having the drums there, it didn't allow us to experience the beats themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you talked about the lines and the line dancing. So when I've seen that and just like, really showing your strength, showing your musicality, everyone else needs to hold you so that you can go down low and be acrobatic and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then that feeling of like that centipede where everyone is just like in groove with each other.
Sure.
Then the different formations. Do you think that, is there any elements of creating other, like these patterns? What I'm trying to say is, do you feel like it was just, just dancing and we end up dancing in lines and these things end up happening? Or do you think in some communities there was connection trying to do other universal patterns or like that?
Sure. Everything is really evolutionary if you look at it from that point. And I'll give you an example. So the tradition that I come from, it's set for, I don't know, at least for 200, 300 years of this dance and line dances. Up till the time I was born and I started seeing them doing the dance. And before the introduction of a lot of TV and radio, it was very scarce at that time, right? Scarce. In the 70s and before that. So the music was still intact. Like you still see things that are 200 years old, but you see them in 1970 or 1960. You know what I mean? This kind of thing. So after that, this introduction, yes, to other kinds of, even Lebanese debki and Jordanian debki and North Syrian debki and Kurdish and Iraqi and stuff. So the people in the region opened up a little bit to that, even without seeing it. They just start adopting those movements to the work. On top of that, I myself saw a young kid at a wedding in 2008 in the village. In 2008, I went to visit, and then he was doing dance. He started normal like the stuff we do, and suddenly he started doing break dance movements in there, breakdance, not even like a Debki from some other region. You see the point? So yes, when something captures, and it really looked good. Like it was not feeling odd or off. No, he was good at it in a way, and he put it in a nice way in the Debki. I was really impressed by it, and it looked completely like a brand new movement. And people appreciated what he did because he went back to do the normal line dance that we do there in that region.
Oh,
So
I
yes,
experienced that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the answer is yes. They do acclimate or adapt to other things, and especially with now with this openness to the world, you know, they can add to their thing.
Something different.
I'm sorry.
I like what you're saying, and I've experienced that too with the Roma stuff. When
Yeah.
you began, I saw the changes and I saw people seeing
Huh.
what they liked and taking it, but it was more viral internet opposed to land human contact, right? It was.
Uh huh.
But what I'm asking is, do you think that, like, was there any mysticism in some of the cultures that you know that created some of like the lines or like the shapes that they chose to do, because it's not always in a line or a circle, right? Aren't there sometimes
In
other?
the dancing in those regions, I mean, for us, it's mostly yes, like the line dance and the circle dance. And there's one more thing that takes in two individuals, like going after opposite each other, but it has to be two people, and then they do something. Not choreography. Everyone will dance on their own
Mhm.
that way. So this is it. Other than that, there's just the singing style. There's many other genres of singing. People there sang a lot in the villages and stuff.
I'm glad you're talking about that. I have seen
Yeah.
that on YouTube, but I don't know what it is, so tell me.
Okay, I'm going to talk about mostly the region that I come from, but everybody else has that.
So,
There is, and it's common.
where you're from?
I'm sorry.
Where are you from exactly? Tell us again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm from southern Syria, from the mountain area in southern Syria, with a Lebanese heritage also. Like I have a Lebanese Syrian background, and where the Druze people settle, they are in three patches: in southern Syria, in Lebanon, the mountains, and Palestine, Israel, right now. But they were before the same thing area. Anyways, so we have a common repertoire. That's what I want to say, and a little bit of it is common with the Palestinians themselves, with the Jordanians, and with some of Saudi Arabia. There's a kind of like a chanting line. It's not a line dance, but the people stand in line and they chant and they clap and they walk really slow, really slow. They don't have to go crazy, no, just slow, because it's about the singing and the clapping. So this style is adopted by the people in southern Syria there. And again, still has everything has singing in it. And there's another slower line dance where one guy will sing, like he's a singer. He will have to lead about 10 people, more or less, it doesn't matter. But then he will sing and they will repeat after him the main line. And he will say more verses. That has a name and it has a form, and there are many of those melodies and poems called qasida, like poem.
It's like a poem. So
Exactly, yeah.
is it related to like any kind of praise or religion, or is it just about life?
Religion, no, not much about the religions, but first, like being in love with always with the person, and then the second one, what homeland and fighting for freedom. That there's always aggression in the area, so people always compose things about the revolution or the war against the occupiers, like a lot of songs against the French occupation of that time and the English occupation. Those kind of motivating songs,
Mm.
some songs for about nature and about farming and stuff like that. But the main two genres is the love ones and the war ones.
Mm.
You see my point? Yeah. Again, because they always had to fight for themselves. That they wanted to have those songs. And there's a whole study about it, the strength of the same music. But this is one thing. There's something called hijani. That's another form. It has slower. This line in particular, very popular among those people in southern Syria, the Palestinians and the Jordanians. Like they have many lyrics to the same melody.
Mm.
That's one thing, yeah. And it's the Druze accent has a little bit of a Bedouin taste to it, so it kind of matches with everybody else around. But they still have their own identity in the language. When people hear them, they know that they are from southern Syria, or even if they're Druze from Lebanon or Palestine, they have a common accent. So the songs are done this way with that accent. Nothing in the classical Fusha or like Egyptian accent or anything like that. Just this local. And again, they have so many of them. There's something. Oh yeah, there's women's repertoire of songs and there's men's repertoire. So women don't really sing about war much. They sing about again happiness or describing things or about their love, you know. And sometimes like you can even see the line drawn. It's a song, you know. This is a woman's song. Like men don't sing it. This is men's song. Women don't sing it. You know what I mean? So it has this cuteness to it. And there are those other songs where everybody can dance together. So they're not completely separate. You know, when people feel comfortable enough about being family and extended relatives, they can gather as men and women in one place to have the wedding. Versus the older days, no, it was more separated. Women in one place and men in one place, just like almost everybody else in the Middle East. But this level of interaction with the music allowed this mixing between women and men in the south, in southern Syria, in the mountain area.
Hmm.
You know?
So that makes me think of like something that I really love about, a lot of Eastern um, traditions, like from the Balkans to the Arab, to the Roma world. It,
Sure.
it's like when you're raised somewhere where it's normal that people get together and then one person will get up and dance and express themselves, like within kind of the
Mm,
the soup of kind of what the form is, but then they're able to express themselves, men and women,
right.
young girls, young boys, old men, old women. That's something that I really miss. And I know that we, like our community, we are slowly building these repertoires together over the generations
Mm-hmm.
so that when we do get together, we might play, oh, that song that's so played out. But we all know it. We all love it. We know, we have memories with it. We have all this stuff. And so, I mean, that's the closest that I've really gotten to it in my own American, you know, culture that's, so mixed.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
But I think about, like, I don't know. Do you think that, I mean, obviously it's normal for, people who are raised like that. And I know, I know a lot of hardship comes with the culture. I was going to say, do you
Mhm.
think that people, that it, what I was going to ask is, do you think that it matures or grows a part of a person to be able to do that opposed to not? Because I feel like I've missed out to not have a family and a community that we do that together. When we get,
Right.
we eat and talk, and maybe the
Yeah,
TV,
yeah.
and that.
Right, right. But see, now we're talking about already established traditions for thousands of years, and it's already like how did they start 1,000 years ago? How did they start the Druze sect or any other sect?
Well, what do you think? How do you think they started it? Because I'm so curious, and I think about.
I think it's a collective effort. I mean, look at we have an evolution here since the 1980s, let's say from the 1980s until now, the introduction of more world music and dance. It also introduced other habits and other costumes and things from other cultures that what you said right now, it's forming this community. There was no community before this way. People are still living for themselves, but then around this music and art form, people start gathering for the last 40, almost 50 years. And now we can see what is culminating to. See
Hmm.
my point? So when you compare with all those traditions, it's hard because they're already established. I didn't know how the debki how it was made, but I was doing it. I was doing the debki.
Right.
If I get new movements, like sometimes they create new movements within the debki, it was also easy to learn and remember.
Hmm.
You know? So again, just because of that. Now, originally, what happened? It has to be those elements that contributed to people, a bunch of people being in contact with each other for a while. You know, after that decade or few decades, they start getting used to each other, and then because there's also already music and tradition around them, they're not isolated. So you always can extract as a human being.
I think you're right. Of course, it's like the sounds that they hear, or, um, yeah, the sounds that we hear, and especially before the internet, right?
Yeah.
You just hear what you have your hands on. I mean, I traveled to many places around the world where, um, like, they saw that I had a tape player. It's like way before cell phones and internet.
Mm.
I'd bring my tape player to record, or to listen to music, but mainly to record. And oh my God, when they saw that I had a tape, They would go and rush and find their one little tape that they had, usually of Tupac.
Yeah. Tupac, yes.
Country, it was always Tupac.
Oh my God. Oh dear me. All right.
They had, the stuff that they had was just regional, but they had one tape, American tape, locked away for a moment that a teacher might show up.
Locked away. Why? Are they not prohibited?
What's that?
Are they prohibited? You said they're locked away. The tapes.
No, it was just like one of their like prized pieces.
Oh, sure, sure. You're right. Yeah, I understand that part.
American that they'd love to listen to. It was music that was not that accessible at that time.
Right.
You know.
I remember that period in the 70s, like late 70s for me, early 80s. With a few tapes and not much radio or TV reception.
I think it was all the way up into the 90s, though. Come on.
Oh, I left the country in 91, so I don't know how the things go after. But nevertheless, things are actually after the 1995. There's this jump happened, like sudden open in the market. Lots of these satellite TVs happened, and then being able to have the radio also on
Yeah.
wider space. Facebook came in afterwards, like in the 2000s and stuff. Right. So, now they know things more than us sometimes. And they have technological devices like we don't have here, like we cannot afford it. They can afford it there. That's the weird part. Like in my village, there's Facebook and there's WhatsApp in the village that I come from. And they can have Zoom. I can have Zoom meeting with someone in the village right now.
Yeah, what a difference, huh?
Yeah, big difference, right?
Well, for like an hour or so, we have about 4 minutes, and I was thinking, it'd be cool if you have anything on your mind about like polyrhythms or the sacred geometry that we talk about. I think that's so beautiful, and you have a nice way of putting it.
I appreciate you saying that. May I just say one thing? Like I have dropped the term sacred out of the geometry because it's in fact it's an actual thing. Its sacredness. I'm not sure who decided or suggested to call it sacred geometry because that's how I got introduced to it.
Okay.
But to see its existence, that we exist inside it because of it, we exist. And if you want to believe that someone created this universe, you will see that they use this net, this fractal concept. It's not even, you cannot touch it. But you can. It's like even thought is fractal geometry, like a thought, and it came out. Part of it has the elaborateness of all these patterns we see in everything, even in nature. And when it came down to music, it's also the same thing. And now we're becoming more aware of this because we are able to measure frequency and things like that, and even have like images of things. So if you imagine yourself making any rhythmic pattern or melodic pattern in any music of the world, and just look at it under the X-ray machine, as if there's such thing, you will see it's not arbitrary or just like vibrations only. No. It has those geometrical shapes. So that's something to stop you and make you think of like all these sounds you're making and phrases, how they look like and why does it, sometimes like there's beautiful playing and there's not so much beautiful playing, strong playing or not so strong playing, precise or not, all that. When you can look under the microscope, you'll see. When it's beautiful music, you see the geometry is full shapes, like what you see in those designs and things like that, right? And when they're not, there is still a design, but yet it's not as strong, it's not as vibrant to show you, the melody or the beat and stuff. So from there, and trying to relate to something in the universe, I've found that fractal geometry, geometry and fractal geometry. The concept of geometry you all know, but this fractal thing, everything repeats, everything can be divided and divided and multiplied and everything, and keeps repeating itself. There's only one thing ever. Just lately I started also going again to the main pulse. Like, have we in science and in even in music discussed?
Is that me or you? Hold on, sorry.
Oh.
I cannot minimize while I'm in Zoom.
I don't think it's me.
Hold on, it's me. I got it.
That sounds like Facebook.
It was. Someone was calling me and I didn't even.
Okay, cool. So was I talking? Oh yeah, this original pulse that happened will never happen. Just it was only one. But besides what triggered it, when it got triggered, was I doing tick-tock, 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 right? It's only one. But how did it make two things cross this way? You see, you have right? We have axis, everything has this axis, one going this way, one going this way. But when it's by itself only, how can it do that? I still don't understand. But yet, it stopped me to think there. Wow, all those drums and sounds we're making, they're stemming from this. This is always fractalizing. Dum, dum, dum. That's same thing, just fractalizing, no matter what patterns. And there are the many different aspects of it. For example, you know the double time and half time of the same thing, like your maqsoom, you can slow it down as much as you can slow it. You can, from wherever you slowed it, you can do double the time. Or even other arbitrary speed, but also the idea of slow down and you can go half. You can slow down and you can go half. Or you go fast and then you slow down halfway. And then you still go fast and you slow down. It's really amazing to when you practice. I mean, you can see it in the playing itself, just in the rolls. Imagine rolls, how a roll can be something. If you slow it down and just stop there for a while, you can see that you can actually divide it again from wherever you stop that speed.
Mhm.
It's such a beautiful movement in the universe.
Oh, it is. Well, I mean, you picked up the drum, and it seemed like you were gonna show us. So I was curious
Oh, I mean, yeah.
what you were trying to say.
Like if I play Samai, the 10-8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I fill it out. Like takiti, takiti, takiti. If you close your eyes, you can see takiti, 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 takiti. That's a geometrical thing around and the dum, tak. That's your main skeleton. Again, you close your eyes and see those sounds, how they looped around it. And calligraphy, like you know how there's embroidery and calligraphy? You have pinpoints, the tak. This is your main frame, and you're just painting all these things around it. It can be as elaborate and sophisticated, it can be as sparse or simple.
Yes, I mean,
So,
that is the dancing, that is the art, that is the calligraphy, that is the life. It's just, it's so beautiful. So I'm sure you think of these things when you play, but have you, when you were doing that, I was thinking, man, I would love to hear one of your pieces that was your painting of this fractal geometry.
mm,
Like, do you do that already naturally? I'm sure. Have you done it consciously yet? A song?
consciously, I mean, I'm not too sure. There are solos I put together on like odd meters and certain phrases that I like. But anytime again, I'm playing either soloing or playing with the music, but maybe mainly in soloing. These kind of things start being present. Doing like what do you call it, the symmetry stuff in the play. That's another part of fractal geometry. So that it shows in that aspect. Um, I mean, there's a 7/8 solo that I do. There's another solo. It has changes into different beats like between 13 and 11 and 9 with a certain structure like dum, dum, rakati, takati, dum, with 13. Yeah, I mean, if I can put it this way, in the grooves that I was able to discover among the beats, they can show you these fractal things. For example, like this was a 7, just a slow 7, and a slower 6/8 or 3/4. You put them together, they make this longer thing. It becomes like a 13/8 beat. You see my point? So these combinations that we do between twos and threes and other combinations, when you have a bigger frame, they become a groove. It's made out of this fractal uh, principle,
Mm.
to make the bigger picture.
Right.
I mean, you already know it with the Bulgarian music and other things, the Macedonian, when they have like two nines and a 4, that's 22, and other combinations like that.
Yeah.
That itself, you can see it has a geometrical shape to it.
Well, I mean, look, here it is right here. Like, for me, especially, dance and enjoying dance for so many years now
Mhm.
and doing different dances from around the world, and being around the incredible teachers or being in their countries, the movement that comes that's connected with music is so potent. It's
Mhm.
not just a random movement here and there. Like, obviously it's there's shapes. There's also there's
Huh.
each dance. To me, the what we talked about originally, we were talking about, you said, I was talking about where we come from, but you said, you used the word, dang, well, we'll hear it in the recording, but you said, um That started with an A, not, and it wasn't focus. Anyway, like there's,
Approach.
yeah, approach. Thank you. Good job. So the approach to it is so connected to the music, and there's these shapes. There's like these calligraphy style, like stylizations. There's color, there's sound, there's a feeling. And as a dancer, and I know as a musician, and I felt it in drumming and playing, when you get in the pocket,
Mm,
and you also can get in the pocket with movement. And I think you can no matter what your dance style is to the music, but
mhm.
you I don't think you can ever replace the dance movements that originated from the original music.
Okay, okay, yes.
Is a connection there that
Right, sure.
powerful. And if ever as a dancer we're blessed to be able to just meld with it and feel it in its complete groove and feeling, I mean that is what I'm attaining, going for, trying to attain,
I appreciate that, yes.
yeah.
A classic example of this, um, taking some folk songs from the villages of southern Syria and Palestine and putting them in belly dancing and do belly dancing to them. You can totally see that it doesn't click this way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's something about this being able, because you said it, there's already that set tradition with its rules, and it's working out great. Like there's no need to change with it. If you want to do something, you get inspired by that, but you start from there, developing your own music and according to the dance movements. Now, I saw this nice evolution in the belly dance the tribal belly dance from 1990 80s or something, when it's kind of just started to becoming there. This is a great platform for this new American development of dance and based on everything else from the world. One thing was a challenge for it is developing the music that really expresses the strength of this new style, and then the movement that came out with it, and how, because there are many movements came out, right? How can you incorporate them? How can you find the music that will really portray this? It was a challenge. Now I don't know how much it evolved, but this is again one platform developed to give you this, what you don't have already, and now you have the chance to develop it. You
Mm.
know what I mean? The old traditions, they're already set in their ways. You can only again get inspired by them.
Well, it's really interesting to me that you're saying that,
Uh-huh.
because it's interesting on its own, but also
Uh-huh.
for me, what I have been developing is what I have named the Rhythm and Belly Revival.
Right.
And it's kind of saying what you're saying, but on the other end, saying, look, we've been so blessed to be able to experience these different movements, musicalities,
Mhm.
rhythms, and so forth from these various countries that we love. And what about the music that we love here, where we were raised? And is there a way for us to stay in rhythm, express ourselves, dance to the music that us and our community know that can maybe clap to or also sing to? Like we have that capability here, but that's not really
Yeah.
developed. And that's what I have been investigating and like doing with friends and
You, you're talking about American music and dancing being incorporated into the community that we are in, or for the American in general, like or even European, but for American,
yeah.
like dancing to hip hop and things like that, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm exploring most because of what I'm connected to and what I
Uh-huh.
see, there are so many forms of music and style that I don't know if this would work, but it works with the rhythm and blues. It works from because comes from Africa. It's developed
Right.
from the blues all the way up to R&B, soul, and
Uh-huh.
hip hop.
Okay.
Starts to kind of change the feel. Like it still comes
Yes, hip hop. Yeah, that's the new evolution.
grandfather, but it's different. But that American genre that we have, and even like I'm talking about the African American and the European Americans
Right.
and the Native Americans. I mean, people talk about when you listen, first of all, if you understand the history of this country, which I understand this much, but the Native Americans, the African Americans, and the frickin' European Americans, some of all of them lived together, right? And so that music, there's a lot of um, influence
Mhm.
I never knew about. and I've heard in documentaries, and you can hear it. So, but what I'm saying is that I'm talking about the rhythm and blues because I think that in America, rhythm and blues and I don't know if it's blues.
Right, but those the genres they do already have their dancing happening to them.
I know, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying to put a different dance on top of it. I'm not saying
Okay.
belly dance on top of it. What I'm saying is, I notice the building blocks of the similarity of dance, which is listen to the music, get in
Oh.
the groove, find the way the music moves you through these principles and ideas that you
Oh my God.
are the same building blocks that the Cubans are using, all these different African, different countries are using. Syrians, Lebanese, Egyptian, Roma. Well, I mean, right? It goes on and on and on. And so what I'm saying is it's not the outer thing that they're doing. It is if you want to keep it traditional like that, and
Mhm.
that's beautiful. But to me, I see these building blocks that are all the same, which are some of the ones I
Oh,
mentioned.
of course. You just said a great example, the evolution of this American dancing forms based on jazz and swing and other African music. You know, just for the last 200 years, some new forms of dance developed in America here. It is based on African steps and maybe Afro-Cuban and things, but still it gained its own identity. That's the idea. It became authenticated by use of people here and trying to do work with it. You
Hmm.
know, I remember all those shows from the early on, the white, black and white TV and
Hmm.
Broadway shows and stuff. The footwork and the all the dancing and the choreography. Like somehow I feel like nobody's ever used the word choreography but Americans. You know what I mean? People they do things, they put things together, they practice them, but choreography it's such a whole thing by itself. You know what I mean? And it helped again for me. It helped the development and the evolution of this music. Now, if there's one more step of evolution with newer steps, newer music, why not? It's going to happen then, anyways.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? But and also for our community, we're still kind of part of the alternative community. We're not mainstream American community. You know, the artists and the Bay Area people and the West Coast. We still, yeah, this smaller community, even on the level of the world. You know, there's some distinction to California and the East Coast, West Coast. I mean,
Yeah.
with the dancing and all these crazy activities. So we're part of the evolution, and whoever is part of it gonna keep coming with it, with new ideas.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and fruits will start coming out. I don't know if you remember how the process to make butter, the older days of butter, shaking the leather thing that put milk in it, keep shaking it, shaking for so like 2 hours almost, and those chunks of butter come out this much, and they're so zesty and beautiful. You know, out of this shaking and so many things together, this butter comes out.
I love that. Well, I love tasting the butter of our, that's for sure.
You will believe it's butter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to, I think I might name this conversation Fractal Geometry with Life and Music.
Uh huh.
Within life and music.
Yes, ma'am.
It might just be that. But I hope that we can do more. I want to continue and thank you for saying yes. And
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy. Those are really great ideas. We don't know what's going to happen next, so let's just give as much information and share information and encourage people to keep up with everybody.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my best to edit, to put in your website or Patreon, but will you just tell us what it is and what people get real quick?
Well, if the people are interested in the Patreon, now we're having a technical problem with the website. It has been stopped for a couple of months, so we have to redo the account. But I've been using Patreon for those classes with offering, and then on Facebook, you know, my name on Facebook. I still also post free things and do my live practice. I just posted a live
Got it.
drumming thing. It's crazy. I was just playing with this, and I wanted to go, and then it's like almost 19 minutes just playing, and I barely did anything.
It was great. I watched. I
Yeah.
also saw Aya today. That was nice. She was doing some traditional Greek
Mm,
stuff. So
I think I might have missed that.
I'm going to stop the recording and thank
Yes,
you so much for joining. It was really cool.
you are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Oops. That's not what I want to do. Now I'm really going to press stop.